Among all the categories of equipment that you prefer not to have casually misplaced, military gear tops the list in terms of potential danger. In capable hands, it poses significant risks, and when it falls into the wrong hands, the consequences can be dire. Regrettably, due to the nature of warfare and combat, lost or damaged military equipment is scattered across the globe. On occasion, it's simply left behind. Surprisingly, unexpected discoveries of military equipment can occur in the most unexpected places, as you're about to discover in this video. Abandoned artillery. Throughout the British Isles, remnants of German and British wrecks from both World Wars are scattered, with many of them yet to be uncovered. In February 2020, even the seasoned British historian and television presenter Dan Snow was taken aback by what he stumbled upon at the submerged quarry in the bailiwick of Guernsey. During the war, this island was occupied by German forces, but was eventually liberated by the Allies in May 1945. The post-war cleanup effort was monumental, and local tales had always hinted that the Allies opted for a straightforward solution by disposing of unwanted artillery in a quarry. Now it's confirmed that these stories were indeed accurate. Amidst the heaps of German artillery submerged underwater, several wheeled guns and the half-track personnel carrier that was initially used to deposit them into the quarry have been discovered. $1 Million Point. This site is famously known as $1 Million Point, and it serves as a glaring example of questionable military practices by the United States. It's a collection of various items, including forklifts, bulldozers, jeeps, personal belongings, and other military equipment that was unceremoniously discarded into the Pacific Ocean near Vanuatu after the conclusion of World War II. These items had been in use at bases called Roses and Buttons on Espiritu Santo Island, but were deemed surplus once the war ended. Rather than incurring the expense of shipping it all back to the United States, the US military made the decision to dispose of their unwanted equipment in this manner. This choice was made after an unsuccessful attempt to sell the surplus items to the locals. Hand grenades. In July 2019, a group of magnet fishers who were operating along the River Soar in Leicester found themselves in a state of panic as they stumbled upon 3 hand grenades among their discoveries. Alongside the grenades, they also pulled out bullets, a rifle, and a substantial assortment of knives, which raised concerns that they might have been linked to criminal activities. The grenades, however, were the most alarming find and prompted immediate attention. The bomb squad was urgently called to the scene, and they determined that 2 out of the 3 grenades posed a real threat, necessitating their controlled destruction. The 3rd grenade was also confiscated by authorities for safe disposal, despite the wishes of the individuals who had found it and wanted to keep it. This incident involved more than 50 people engaged in magnet fishing, highlighting some of the concerns associated with this hobby. Aside from the environmental impact of having numerous individuals combing through waterways, there is a clear risk to life when such situations arise. Secret British bunker. During the bleakest period of the Second World War, the situation became dire for the British. The Nazis launched nightly attacks, resources were stretched thin, and the possibility of defeat loomed large. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, preparing for the potential of a full-scale land invasion of his country, initiated the construction of top-secret bunkers. These bunkers housed highly trained soldiers who were tasked with defending their homeland, even fighting in the streets if necessary. In March 2020, one of these long-forgotten bunkers was rediscovered. This concealed facility, nestled deep within the Scottish woodland, is just one of the many that would have accommodated Churchill's auxiliary units. Each bunker housed 8 soldiers who were specially trained in hand-to-hand combat. Their instructions were clear. If called upon, they were to emerge and carry out targeted assassinations of specific German military targets. It has long been rumoured, although never officially confirmed, that these covert orders may have included suicide missions. The Flying Tank. In 1943, a massive Soviet fighter plane, often referred to as the Flying Tank, was shot down during an aerial battle over a Russian lake. 75 years later, in 2018, this historic aircraft was finally recovered from the depths of the lake, and here's how it appears today. The aircraft in question is an Ilyushin IL-2 Sturmovik, which crash-landed in a lake near Murmansk during a Nazi attack on a nearby airbase. Captain Alexander Ivanovich, the pilot, managed to land the damaged plane on the water and escape with his life, but unfortunately, the aircraft itself couldn't be salvaged at the time. It wasn't until the story attracted the attention of a Russian volunteer group that a daring rescue operation was organized. Being submerged in the water for such an extended period had taken its toll on the plane, but the group transported it to a specialized facility in the city of Novosibirsk for restoration. Cluster bombs. Cluster bombs are highly controversial munitions due to their lack of precision and the harm they can cause to civilians. Their use is discouraged globally, yet some groups still employ them. One notable case is Saudi Arabia's use of cluster bombs in Yemen. In May 2016, the United States and the United Kingdom faced scrutiny when a cache of American and British-made cluster bombs was discovered in Yemen. According to British officials, these cluster bombs were outdated and there was no documented record of their transfer to Saudi Arabia. Based on the appearance of the munitions in photographs, it was determined that they belonged to a type produced by a company called Hunting Engineering in the 1970s, long before international law banned cluster bombs. In principle, any remaining cluster bombs from that era should have been dismantled. However, it's now evident that at least some of the UK's stockpiled cluster bombs survived and eventually found their way to a conflict zone where they were used in a devastating bombing campaign over 40 years later. Ghost Fleet. In Suisun Bay, off the coast of San Francisco, there was a remarkable sight, an abandoned fleet of approximately 100 warships that were once interlinked on the water. Known as the Ghost Fleet, this collection initially comprised 50 decommissioned ships from the United States National Defense Reserve Fleet. Over the years, environmental concerns regarding the deteriorating ships, including issues like decaying structures and chipping paint, prompted the gradual removal of these vessels one by one. Essentially, it was like witnessing the abandonment of a military establishment for the second time. Gun battery. During the Second World War, the British Channel Islands endured significant damage and were occupied by German forces for much of the conflict. The Germans considered maintaining control of these islands vital to their war efforts, leading to the extensive fortifications. Among these defences was Gun Battery Moltke, situated at Noirmont Point on Jersey, constructed in 1942. Interestingly, the Germans armed this battery with 4 155mm French guns, dating back to 1917. Despite their age, these guns boasted an impressive range of over 10 miles, providing excellent protection for St. Owen Bay. Plans existed to build 9 strategic bunkers in the area, but only 3 were completed before the war's conclusion. In 1944, the British vessel HMS Onslaught made an attempt to dislodge the Germans from Noirmont Point. However, Gun Battery Moltke played a crucial role by relentlessly firing upon the vessel, ultimately persuading it to turn back. When the war finally ended, British forces took control of the battery and disposed of the guns by throwing them over the cliffs. World War II bombs. Even decades after the conclusion of World War II, remnants of its devastating impact continue to surface in Germany in the form of unexploded bombs. These leftover munitions, often known as blind gangers or duds, serve as a haunting reminder of the extensive aerial bombardment carried out by the Allies during the war. Between 1940 and 1945, the Allies dropped around 2.7 million tons of bombs over Europe, with nearly half of them targeted at Germany. While a significant portion of these bombs detonated upon impact, it's estimated that 10 to 15% failed to explode. These dormant threats, often buried deep beneath the ground, necessitate ongoing evacuation and bomb disposal operations across Germany. When discovered, which frequently happens during construction work, a delicate and perilous defusing process commences, typically handled by specially trained bomb disposal experts. In cases where the bomb is considered too hazardous to defuse, controlled detonations are carried out, sometimes resulting in significant damage to nearby structures. This issue affects a wide range of areas in Germany, both rural and urban. Cities like Berlin, Munich, and Hamburg, which were heavily targeted during the war, frequently encountered these bomb discoveries. Notably, in 2011, a 1.8-ton British bomb was found in Koblenz's city centre, prompting the evacuation of approximately 45,000 people, nearly half of the city's population. Aircraft carrier. The Battle of Midway, a pivotal and brutal event in the Pacific during World War II, resulted in heavy casualties on both sides. Many of those casualties ended up at the bottom of the sea, and in October 2019, one of the largest wrecks was rediscovered near Midway Atoll. This wreck is believed to be that of a Japanese aircraft carrier, most likely the Akagi, based on its location and dimensions. Given the extreme depths of the ocean, sending humans to explore these wrecks would be too dangerous, so high-frequency radar was used to capture images of the lost vessel. The condition of the ship, which rests 18,000 feet below the water's surface, suggests it suffered significant damage before sinking. Even in the murky images, it's evident that the flight deck has been severely damaged, with some sections missing entirely. This discovery marks the second of the 7 ships that went down during the Battle of Midway in 1942 to be found, coming shortly after the discovery of another Japanese ship, the Kaga, in the same area. Which of these military discoveries has intrigued you the most? Please share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for tuning in.